Hello everybody and welcome back, where today I thought it was going to be a pretty quiet month for PSVR2. I was very wrong. There's a lot to talk about here, from games that have solid release dates to games that are not PSVR2 enabled now but will be later, and some games that don't have solid release dates at all. Along with a bunch of updates and patches, there's quite a lot to talk about going into June that we already know about. Of course, there will be other releases and announcements and updates during June that will be announced throughout the month, but obviously I don't know about them as of this point, but keep an eye out. Before we get into it, only 25% of you are actually subs to the channel, so if you like PSVR2 or VR in general, please feel free to sub. And thank you to our patrons and members who are on screen right now, along with our sponsor for today's video, which we'll get into later. Right, with that all out of the way, let's dive straight in. If you're a fan of the giant slaying game Behemoth, but you wanted a bit more giant slaying in it without the bits in between, then you're in luck, because Behemoth Rites of Wrath drops on the 3rd. This is a DLC, I think it's free, I want to say, to the base game on Steam, Quest and PSVR2, which adds 2 new modes. It revamps the arena mode, where you'll basically be fighting all the way through, and then once you defeat the arena mode as a whole, you'll then get access to the endless arena mode, so you'll be able to fight until you can fight no longer. So a little bit of roguelite in there, along with endless waves at the end. And then the other mode is called the Behemoth Trials, which essentially allows you to face the behemoths again directly, instead of having to play through the entire game again. You know, those 8 to 12 hours of gameplay with a behemoth sprinkled in, you can now hop in and replay your favorite boss fights whenever you like. I will have a video covering this on the 3rd when it comes out, but that will be on the Steam VR version of the game, not on the PSVR2. But ultimately, you see my PSVR2 review of Behemoth. It plays well, it runs well, and all I'm going to be showing is the content, so feel free to jump in and watch that when it drops. On the 5th, we're getting another patch, but this is for Wanderer: The Fragments of Fate. Now, this won't fix absolutely everything that is planned in the release schedule for fixes, but I think it will patch up a couple of things, including a combat overhaul, some more object management, height and avatar calibration, stability and performance improvements, and general bug fixes. This is part 1 of 2, I believe. I think this update was meant to come out in May, but now it's early June, and the next update will probably be in July, if I had to guess. And to be honest, if you're waiting for the most polished experience, I would say wait until that last patch in July before picking up the game. But I might jump in and play through the game during this patch drop if it does end up fixing up a lot of the issues with the game. But on the other hand, I might want to wait until the final one just to put together a proper comprehensive review of how the game should have been when it launched, so we'll see. But keep an eye out for that on the 5th, and I believe on the 13th we are getting the physical release of Wanderer as well. So if you want to pick it up physically and then hold on to it until the patches are out, you can do that on that date. A family-friendly puzzle game in the form of Epyka is coming out on the 5th of June as well. You embark on a breathtaking quest to solve mankind's oldest mystery, to find humanity's lost civilization named Epyka. This Pixar-like world of sunlit beaches, shadow caves, and volcanic depths are incredibly vibrant on PSVR2, and you'll face clever puzzles, wield supernatural powers, and battle an ancient evil lurking below. This doesn't seem to be the longest of games, but it does seem pretty cute, and I will be covering it with a full review of the PSVR2 version when the embargo lifts. Before we get into the next game, I want to say thank you to our sponsor, VRRock. Now, VRRock make prescription lenses for PSVR2, and also all other headsets. I use them myself. They have magnetic and non-magnetic options, blue light and anti-glare filter options, and can get your custom prescription exactly in the lenses, so you don't have to worry about wearing glasses. For me though, I just have them for protection, as I don't need glasses, and they just give me peace of mind that I'm not going to rub off the coating off my PSVR2, I'm not going to scratch them at all, and my actual lenses can stay pristine, as it's a lot easier to replace a pair of 30 or 50 pound VR lenses than it is the actual headset lenses itself. So check them out in the link in the description with my discount code. I love mine. Anyway, on to the next game. On the 12th, we are getting Zombie Army VR. Now, I'm away a couple days before this game comes out, so I'm hoping to get my hands on it at least for a couple days or so before I go away, so I can put out some impressions of the game. But this is the flat screen franchise turned into VR. We've seen this with Sniper Elite. It's the same company, I believe, as Rebellion, who does Sniper Elite and Zombie Army, and now they're doing the same treatment they did to Sniper Elite with a VR port with Zombie Army VR here. It is fully co-op supported, which is great news. These games tend to be a lot more fun when they're co-op. Hopefully we'll have a ton of guns and zombie types to blast through and quite a lot of content. I'm quite excited for this. I was speaking to Brian from Without Parole about the game, and I was a little bit lukewarm the other day, but after speaking to him about it, he seemed pretty hyped for it in terms of how polished it could be, how much content there could be, and how fun it could be. So I'm a bit more on board now, and potentially this is the biggest release of the month in terms of the hype around it. So I'm very much looking forward to that. That is on the 12th of June for Zombie Army VR. On the 13th, we're not getting a VR port, but we are getting the flat version of a VR port that we're getting later. I'll explain what all that means. Essentially, on the 13th, we're getting Five Nights at Freddy's Secrets of the Mimic, and this game is fully planned to come over to PSVR2 after launch. This is by Steelwood Studios. They did Security Breach, Help Wanted, Help Wanted 2. So some flat games, some VR games, but we know their VR pedigree is pretty good, so I'm hoping for a good VR port of FNAF when it does come around. But what we'll see on the 13th are the reviews for the flat games. So we'll end up seeing whether the base game itself is any good, and then it'll get the Resident Evil treatment later on where we get a VR port. And if the game is good, hopefully the VR port is also, so we can pick it up and then jump into a game that we already know has gotten good reviews. That was a lot of goods. Anyway, hope that makes sense. 13th, FNAF in the flat screen. Later on, not sure when, we're getting the VR mode. On the 17th, we're getting Badminton Time. This is an official decathlon game from what I can see. I've got access to this one on PS. I haven't actually jumped in and tried it yet. I'm always down for more racket games on PSVR2, especially multiplayer ones. We have had Tennis on Court and Racket Fury and Sea Smash, and Sea Smash is probably my favourite out of all those. But there's always room for more, and a badminton game is a little bit different to those, so I'm excited to jump in. On the 20th, we're getting another game that I'm quite excited for, mostly because of its really cool looking DLC. That is Maestro. This is a hand-tracked PSVR2 game, but also supports controllers as well, where you conduct an orchestra. Tons of classic tracks can be played here, and also some film tracks such as The Lord of the Rings, The Bridge of Khazad-dûm, Game of Thrones, Harry Potter, and Star Wars, The Duel of the Fates. I'm really excited to jump in and give this a go. It's always one way or the other with rhythm games for me. I'm either pretty damn good, Beat Saber, I would say I'm maybe a little bit above average, to big myself up, or it's the opposite end of the spectrum where I'm completely awful like I was with the Smash Drums. So we'll see with Maestro, but overall the content here looks great, and hand tracking is always welcome on PSVR2. Lastly, for our games with release dates, Crave is meant to be dropping on the 26th. Now I did just see the other day that this game was undergoing some more tests, I think, for the PC build, so I'm not sure if this release date is going to be solid and stay, but hopefully it will. This game essentially is a caving game. At the moment, it is just caving exploration with no enemies in there, I believe, but what they're testing at the moment is a mode with enemies that kind of stalk you and add a bit more horror to that experience. So it's unclear whether we're going to be getting the main game here with no enemies first on the 26th and then that update later, or whether it's going to be delayed and we're going to get both later on. But at the moment, it looks like 26th for Crave. I'm quite excited for this one, actually. I feel like it could be quite like a claustrophobic VR game that could really use some of those senses well. So I'll definitely be checking that one out. Those are the games that we know about in terms of a release date, but there are a couple of games that might be coming out this month without a release date. The first one I'm probably most confident in is Undead Citadel. This is a melee fighting game where you fight the undead, runs unreprojected on PSVR2. The devs have been listening to the community basically every time I've seen them interact on any platform with us, so that's fantastic. From what I've heard from the other versions of this game on Quest and Steam VR, the combat's fun enough to kind of carry you throughout the entire game in terms of keeping you hooked, and there are quite a few weapons. And honestly, we don't have a shortage of melee games on PSVR2, but it's not like we have an abundance in any way, so it'd be nice to see what this can bring to the table, and whether it can go toe-to-toe with my favourite melee game on PSVR2, Arcanage, so we'll see. We also have a maybe for a release date on Firmament. They're through Sony QA one more time. It's been an absolute hassle for them to get it done with the PSVR2 version of Firmament, which is kind of like an exploration puzzle game with some fantastic views. I mean, looking at this trailer, you can see already, it looks beautiful. Where you explore this abandoned, amazing world, should be coming out this month. It was meant to be coming out last month and the month before, but again, Sony QA have just been delaying it. I'm positive. I'm fingers crossed we're going to get it in June. Hopefully we do. We also have Kid Pilot, a game where you pilot a plane in third person. I didn't know about this until Brian brought it up in the show the other week, but honestly, it does look pretty great. Looks very nostalgic in terms of when you're a kid flying toy planes around, and it seems to evoke that, has some very cool environments. Doesn't have a release date as of yet, but I think it's still technically pinned for June, but it's one of the ones where I'm not sure if it will come out this month, but we'll just have to keep an eye on it. The same can be said for I Am Cat, a very famous Quest game. A lot of kids love this one in terms of jumping in and becoming a cat, wreaking havoc on the house. And honestly, I've seen whole creators build up their entire channel based on this game, which is crazy. But that one may be coming out on PSVR2 during the month of June, but I will not hold my breath on that one. It's one of the ones where every month it's there, and it seems to be getting pushed back and pushed back and pushed back. So we'll see.
Anyway, that'll do us for today. Those are all of the games and updates coming out during June for PSVR2. We have quite a stacked month with a lot of little releases here and there, and then a couple of big ones. I'm excited to jump in and give them a go. Let me know what you're most excited for, and I hope to see you all in the next one.